Now looking at the feather notebook cover project, the first step is to sew in these feathers. Now I'm using a quill stitch to do this, and the way that a quill stitch works is it's effectively a blanket stitch that swaps sides. So I'm going to start off there, just pull this to one side and come in and out to create my first blanket stitch. Now I'm using the solid line there as the one that's going to have my central join down, and then the dotted lines which are either side, they give me an indication of where I want my feather to stop and start. So there's my first one. Because I'm wanting an offset feather design on here, my first 3 stitches are going to be to the same side. So there's my second one. Wrap that around the bottom. And then I've got my third. So again, I'm just finding that first line with the dots on and coming to my second one, which is the solid one. And that's my first 3 stitches. Now I've got enough of a straight run there to add one on my other side, which will still give me that nice pointed feather, but will allow me to work both sides. So I'm going to come in from the other side back to that central line, wrap it round and pull it through. And then I'm coming back to the first side again, finding that dotted line, working always in towards that central solid line, and then back from the other side. Now when you're getting close to the other pieces from the previous feather, you want to just take time and make sure that you kind of keep that nice spaced feather shape to it. And then I'm going to come back across to this side again, just move that out of the way, locate my dotted line. Now this one is going to come down almost on that central feather bar, and that's fine because that will give me my nice central point. And then what I'm going to do is repeat the process that I started at the top here to finish the feather, where I'm going to have 2 or 3 stitches on this side to fill this gap. So there's my first one. And probably I'm going to need 2 here actually. And again, take that back to the centre, wrap my thread underneath. And then one more, just to finish it off, to take the thread through to the back of the piece, and then I can flip it over and tie it off. Now the embroidery's finished, it's time to assemble the notebook cover. Before we do this, I've left a little bit of excess fabric around the edge, just because when you're handling it for embroidery, sometimes you can lose a few bits due to fraying, and to keep it at its proper size, that's why I've left those bits on for the time being. It's now time for me to cut those off to return the panel to its proper size. The way we're going to assemble the book cover is to first of all put the base panel down. This is the largest piece of the feathered fabric that you'll find on your panel. You'll also find 2 smaller, almost square pieces. These you want to fold in half. Now you'll know which way because you'll see which way the pattern runs. You fold them in half and you place them either end with the folded side facing towards the centre of the panel. Let's get the second one there, and they go on either end like that. And then finally you add your panel with your embroidery on, but you add that face down. So once you've got them all together, you are going to sew from just past the edge of the first pocket here, all the way around the top, round the back, round the side, back across the bottom, and stop again just past that second little pocket there. That will allow you a gap in the centre, enough to turn it right side out. I've now been to the sewing machine and sewed it all the way around, and before I turn it right side out, I'm just going to snip off the corners. And to reduce the bulk, you kind of want to do a double snip. So you want to do a long thin snip that way, and then a long thin snip the other way. Not going too close to that corner because obviously you don't want to damage any of your stitches. And then we're going to do the same again on all of these other corners. And what that does is when you come to fold them in, you just do it on this one so you can see. When you come to fold these corners in, that double snip just reduces a lot of the bulk. So if I fold that in, you can see there's not a huge bulky corner there, and then that gives you a nice sharper pointed corner when you turn them out, versus if you just cut them straight off like that, then you'll see you've got a little bit of overlap there, which will give you a much bulkier corner. So just going to take a little bit more off each of those, and then we can go ahead and turn it right side out. So I've spent a little bit of time and I have turned it the right way out, obviously being careful of my stitching when I did that, and then pushed out all of the corners, and then the last thing I've done is just press these both sides, top and bottom, so they're folded in and ready to stitch. Now I'll put a tiny little top stitch along the bottom there to stop those coming open, and then you can see there's the pockets either side, so it's ready to go onto my book.